Ever get that sinking feeling? You glance at your bank balance mid-month and just wonder, where did it all go?
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic financial mystery, isn't it?
It really is. And, let's be honest, talking about the actual nuts and bolts of our spending, even casually, can feel a bit tricky sometimes.
Definitely. Money touches on so much security, habits, lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's personal.
It is. So in this deep dive, we're going to explore that very familiar territory,
Hmm?
managing personal finances. But we're looking at it through a slightly different lens, today language,
Yeah.
specifically a conversation in English. We've got some source material, excerpts from something called Talking About Money in English, and it captures this really everyday kind of discussion.
Right. And what's interesting there is how the specific words and phrases we use can actually tell us a lot about, our underlying attitudes towards money.
Exactly. So we're essentially going to kind of eavesdrop on these two friends, Sophie and Liam. They're at a cafe talking about their budgets, how things are getting more
A
expensive.
very relatable scene.
Totally relatable. And our mission here for you listening is really to pull out the useful bits, not just maybe some English expressions, but the common challenges, the practical solutions they stumble upon. Think of it as a shortcut to feeling a bit more clued in about managing money, whatever your first language.
So using this everyday chat almost like a case study for bigger financial themes.
Precisely. Okay, so let's dive in. The conversation kicks off with Sophie, and she apparently sighs, "Oos, I just checked my bank account this morning. I really need to start budgeting better."
Ah, that moment of truth. We've all been there.
Haven't we just?
It often comes after maybe a period where spending wasn't top of mind, and suddenly, boom, reality hits. It's quite a common trigger for wanting to change things, often
Oops.
reactive,
Mm.
looking back, not planning ahead.
Yeah. And then Liam immediately chimes in, saying something I think resonates with a lot of us. Same here. I spent way too much last month. I don't even know where all the money went.
Right, the disappearing money phenomenon.
It's like financial evaporation.
It really points to how those smaller day-to-day buys, the ones that don't seem like a big deal individually, just vanish under the radar.
Yeah.
But then collectively.
Well, that's exactly what Sophie picks up on next. She says, "Tell me about it. I think I spend most of it on food and coffee. It really adds up." That phrase, "it adds up." So simple, but it captures that dawning realization perfectly, doesn't it?
It really does. And the specifics, food and coffee, are so universal. They're these constant low-level drains for many people. It shows even, seemingly normal everyday costs need attention. Some economists talk about how we mentally discount these small, frequent costs.
Right, makes sense. And Liam's reaction is, well, practical. He says, yeah, those little daily things can get expensive. I've been trying to eat at home more often.
See, that's a direct counter strategy.
Yeah.
He's identified the pattern, the adding up, and he's trying a specific behavior change to combat it.
A tangible step.
Exactly. Moving from just noticing the problem to actually doing something. That's a key shift.
Okay, so they've pinpointed some spending leaks. Then they start thinking more proactively. Sophie mentions, I've also canceled some subscriptions I don't use, like Netflix and a gym membership I never go to.
Ah, the subscription audit.
Yeah. And just for clarity, subscriptions here means those regular payments, usually monthly, for a service, right?
Exactly. And canceling unused ones is like pruning your finances. You have to look at what's going out automatically and be honest, am I actually using this?
Hmm.
It's so easy to sign up and forget. I found I was pushing for a cloud storage I hadn't touched in like a year.
Oh, I've done that. Liam then has a similar thought. Good idea. I still pay for 2 streaming services, but only watch one. I should probably cancel the other. And streaming services, just to be clear, are things like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus Gay, where you watch shows online.
Right. And it sounds obvious, cancel the one you don't watch, but inertia is powerful.
It really is. How many of us are shelling out for stuff we barely use?
We sign up, life happens, and unless we actively review, those payments just keep rolling, maybe setting a reminder like every 6 months to check subscriptions.
Good idea. Okay, then Sophie introduces another tool. She asks, have you ever tried using a budget app? Liam hasn't, but he's heard they're good.
Right.
And Sophie says, yeah, I use one called Money Map. It tracks my spending and shows where my money goes every week.
This brings in the data aspect, moving from a vague feeling to actual numbers, categories. Seeing it laid out visually can be really, really impactful for changing habits. A lot of apps automate the categorization now, which is helpful.
And Liam's reaction is quite telling. That sounds helpful. I think I'll try it. I really want to start saving for a trip next year.
And there's the key link, connecting the budget app to a specific motivating goal, saving for a trip.
Right. It gives the budgeting purpose.
Exactly. It's not just about restriction. It's about enabling something else you want. That makes sticking with it much easier.
Okay, so to kind of round off this part of their chat, they make a pact. Sophie suggests, me too, let's make a deal. No more impulse buys this month. Okay.
The impulse buy challenge.
And Liam agrees, but adds, deal, except maybe one coffee right now? Sophie laughs and agrees. So impulse buys, those are the unplanned purchases, right? Like grabbing chocolate at the checkout.
Precisely. Often driven by immediate want, not need. And that agreement, even a casual one, introduces accountability. It's about mindful spending, putting a pause between the urge and the action.
And the coffee exception keeps it real, doesn't it?
Totally. Budgeting isn't about misery. It's about balance and conscious choices. A bit of flexibility makes it sustainable.
Okay, so thinking back on just that short chat between Sophie and Liam, there's some really useful language there. The source material itself points out a few key phrases worth maybe just quickly revisiting.
Sure.
First, Sophie's start budgeting better. We know what budgeting is planning your spending, but better implies improving, being more intentional.
Yeah, it's the foundation, isn't it? Creating that financial roadmap. Where is it going? Where do I want it to go?
Then that phrase we liked, it adds up, highlighting how small regular costs accumulate. Easy to understand, harder to feel day to day sometimes.
It really is. It's the frequency as much as the cost. Visualizing that daily coffee cost over a whole year can be quite illuminating.
Definitely. We also had subscriptions, those recurring payments and streaming services as a specific example. Knowing all your active ones is step one for potential savings.
Absolutely. Reviewing them is like financial decluttering. You find things you just don't need anymore.
And their deal about no more impulse buys, those unplanned spur-of-the-moment purchases?
Right. Often more about feeling good now than about long-term goals. They
Yeah.
can easily derail things if you're not careful.
And finally, just their simple agreement, let's make a deal. It's just a casual way to say let's agree, but it shows how even informal accountability helps.
It does. That social element, sharing a goal, adds a layer of motivation.
So just to quickly pull it together from Sophie and Liam, we saw them acknowledging common struggles like not knowing where money goes, especially with everyday things like food and coffee, the whole it adds up idea. They looked at proactive steps like reviewing subscriptions and streaming services.
Right. Cutting unnecessary costs.
Sophie brought up using tools like budgeting apps for clarity.
Getting that data.
And they made that small deal to curb impulse buys.
Setting intentions and having some support. It's a great snapshot. Their simple chat really covers core personal finance ideas. Awareness, identifying leaks, taking action, using tools, and setting goals.
Yeah, it really does. And that brings us back to you listening. Even if, the specific English words weren't the main thing for you today, those principles, the challenges Sophie and Liam faced, they're pretty universal, aren't they?
Absolutely. Managing money effectively has these common threads everywhere. What's great here is seeing it unfold in such an ordinary, relatable conversation. You don't need to be a finance whiz or use complicated jargon to start making positive changes.
So true. So maybe as you go about your week, just take a moment. Think about those small, regular costs in your own life. Are there things that might be quietly adding up? And maybe, inspired by Sophie and Liam, what's just one small thing you could do this week? Maybe download a budget app or review one subscription just to get a little more insight into where your money's actually going.
Even a tiny step towards awareness can make a difference. You might be surprised what you find.